What I'm going to tell you today is very private and informal. It's a personal story, fresh from a Russian banker who just came to Tashkent this morning. It's an update about the state of Russian banking industry and the state of commercial loans in Russian banks. And it's not pretty. Russian banks are in big trouble. And that is coming from the banker. Back in the summer of 2022, right after the start of the war, I had a very heated discussion with a friend of mine. I don't want to reveal his name, I don't want to put him in any kind of trouble, so I'll call him Mr. N. The discussion was of the future of Russian economy. You know my position on Russian economy, and I haven't changed it since the start of the war. I think Russian economy is in big trouble. It's going through the biggest crisis since the collapse of the USSR in 1991. It is in an extremely poor shape right now, and the long-term forecast is very negative. There's plenty of evidence for all that. But this was obvious to me since the first Russian missile flew to Ukraine. And that was what I was telling my old friend Mr. N in the summer of 2022. Mr. N thought completely opposite. Now, let me tell you more about Mr. N. One of the smartest people I have ever seen. He graduated with a degree in advanced physics and mathematics, then went to receive a master's degree in Russia's top university in Moscow, and then he studied further. He researched advanced surface materials for jet planes while doing his PhD. And like most Russian mathematicians, he ended up working in banking. Mr. N did a very successful career in commercial banking. Well, first it was investment banking and then commercial banking. And the last decade or so, he's been an executive of a bank responsible for commercial lending and leasing. So in the summer of 2022, Mr. N was arguing with me about the future of Russian economy. He thought that the future was all right, at least. Not anywhere near the dark economic future that I was telling him about, my forecast was. He was sure that the war would not have a huge impact on the economy and things would recover quickly. He thought that real impact from increased military spendings wouldn't be strong enough, and the government was in complete control of things with its monetary policies, fiscal policies. The reserves were large, etc. If you looked at us arguing back then, you'd see us at the completely opposite sides. My forecast was dark, and his forecast was rosy. Let's fast forward 3 years to now, April 30th, 2025. Mr. N came to Tashkent. Long time no see. We met in the morning. We sat at a cafe in downtown Tashkent, and we were drinking coffee, catching up on things. And I reminded him us arguing. I brought back my arguments and the forecast, and I remember that very clearly. I remember our conversations. And I asked if he has changed his opinion. He became sad, he just looked at me and nodded his head. Yes, he did. I asked him to tell me more of what's going on right now in his industry, in his bank, and Mr. N shared with me. In the last 6 months or so, the situation in his bank has significantly worsened, and his bank is just a regular bank, the same as the others. Commercial loans issuing started to decline. The higher the key interest grew, the worse it became. And at this point, things are this. There are no loans issued. Mr. N said that for customers, companies with perfect credit score, they add 4 interest points on top of the key interest rate. In other words, for such clients, the interest rate is 21 plus 4%. 21 is the key interest rate plus 4%, 25%. And to those with worse credit score, the interest rate is around 29-30%. So they add from 8 to 9% on top of the key interest rate. There are no companies apply for loans with good or perfect credit score. Those companies that really use money for their business, 25% for them is too high of a rate. Their cost of production, either products or services, is huge at 25% when the loan is 25%. They simply don't have profit margin high enough. And if they jack up their prices, then they simply don't become non-competitive. And those companies who apply for loans with such high interest rates are usually in big trouble already. In pre-bankruptcy situation, they look for any kind of money to prolong their life a little bit, and they usually have no intent to repay loan. And Mr. N's bank denies those companies. So there are no market rate loans being issued right now. Now I'll repeat it again. There are no market rate loans being issued right now. Zero. Zilch. For 3 months now. A huge decline this winter and spring, and there is no light at the end of the tunnel. Mr. N doesn't oversee new customers' evaluation and research because simply there are no customers. There are very few customers right now that come in. Again, not too many, very few. They come to get loans with a state subsidy. When the state subsidizes the rate in form of one of the state programs. This is how it works. A company comes and applies for a loan at 29% interest. But the company is pre-approved for a state program, a state subsidy, and the state covers 25% of the loan. So the company pays only 4%, and the rest is covered by the state. 29 minus 25 is 4. Again, 25% out of 29 is covered by the state. Read by the taxpayers. Those companies are rare clients, and when I asked Mr. N how to get into the subsidized state programs, it's a pretty big deal. I mean, it's sweet, such a great program. Great programs exist. He just looked at me and said, connections. You have to be connected. You have to be one of your own. The state, certain people within the state, designed those programs for themselves. The commercial loans aren't issued any longer. Mr. N has been reassigned, again, instead of evaluating, researching new customers, he services the loans issued in the previous years and evaluates customers which have defaulted payments, and there are quite a few of those. His job is now to try to get as much money as possible from the companies who defaulted, to salvage money. So Mr. N was very sad this morning. He told me that he has a disturbing feeling that everything is going in a very wrong direction, and he doesn't understand the future of the country any longer. He just sees it as dark. He also has a feeling that everything will continue for a very long time. He is afraid to lose his job, and so are all the colleagues around him. And when I reminded Mr. N our argument 3 years ago of Russia's economic future, he just shrugged his shoulders and said that he didn't want to talk about it. And I didn't insist. So this is the opinion of an executive of a regular Russian bank in Moscow. Everything is going to hell. And this time, in April of 2025, I totally agree with him. Carthago delenda est.